joined by Peter Murphy, who is running for Commissioner President. Thanks for coming, Peter.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Our first question is, what do you think the three biggest issues are facing the county, and how would you go about addressing them?
I think one of the probably the major issues right now is the lack of public trust. What's been going on in county government in the last few years has made it very difficult for people to have confidence in county government. And so certainly with that one, the very first thing that I would do, I think it has a lot to do with your leadership style in terms of how do you kind of reestablish that trust. And so it's how you define yourself as a leader, it's how you actually lead. And I think one of the probably the most important pieces about being a leader is to help other people be good leaders. And so I would see my position as someone who really helps build the leadership potential in all the other board members, help them be good leaders. One very practical thing you can do is to give each county commissioner an opportunity to be vice president for 1 year of their 4-year term. And that way it really gives them an opportunity to experience leadership and to be able to obviously keep government running. You know, it should be able to do that. It should be seamless. And I think an indicator of the kind of leader that you are has much more to do with what happens when you're not there than when you are there. I'm very clear that if I'm lucky enough to be Commissioner President, that I'm simply passing through. And so it's part of my job is to really lay the groundwork and have people that can really pick that up when I'm gone. So I think that's one of the things. I think the other thing too is that we've got to rebuild the integrity of the processes, and that gets to the next thing, which is all this issue of land use. You know, everybody's very well aware of the comprehensive plan, the way that was handled, and while I I didn't have any attachment to a particular outcome, I'm always attached to the best outcome, but I'm much more interested that the process have integrity, that you really do make sure that what you say you're going to do. And when you ask citizens to be part of that and to give up their time and their expertise, and then you don't value their input, then you do lose public trust. And I think that we've got to reset that tone to say to people that, number one, we value what you have to say. We want your input, and you're going to have a part to play in the process. And my biggest issue with what's happened, particularly with the comprehensive plans, I think that process, the integrity of that has been just violated, and I think that's something we have to rebuild. And then the other thing, of course, are taxes. I hear that all the time. People are very concerned about property taxes, and that is related to land use. That we've got to come up with some sound land use practices that are going to be sustainable, particularly in terms of property taxes. Folks are having a hard time. I will say that one of the things that I did in the session this year is that we passed legislation, I sponsored the legislation, that will enable county government to allow tax credits or be able to access to work with the property taxes for seniors in this county, so that we can help them alleviate some of that burden on them. I hear oftentimes about some of our seniors who are saying that they feel they can't afford to live in their homes because the property taxes have gotten so high. So this piece of legislation would give county government the opportunity to work with them and adjust property taxes to help seniors stay in their homes, which of course people want to do when they can, as long as they can. These have been people that have contributed for years to this county, paid taxes for years, many times educated their children, have had families here, worked here. We don't want them to leave. We don't want them to have to give up their property. And so we need to be working with that particular group. So, and that gets tied into the land use stuff as well. So anyway, those are three of the things that just kind of occurred to me. Any other questions?
Thank you. Our second question is about what have you done to prepare for the commissioner job, and what sets you apart from the field? little bit about yourself.
Sure. I think that it's important to realize that you shouldn't be running for this position unless you have, I think, have shown a commitment to this county. So people that know me know that well before my present position that I hold, I've had at least 30-some years of commitment to the county. And I have to say that government is just another type of public service. There are lots of ways to work in that area. And so number one, I think having your hands on many different parts of the community over years, and I've done that, whether it's been with the seniors and working on the Area Council on Aging, whether it's been the Conservancy for Charles County, environmental groups. I was a foster parent, sat on the Foster Parent Review Board. I mean, there are many activities, and so I go way back in terms of a commitment and dedication to the county. Certainly, the last 8 years serving the legislature has been incredibly important, and I think this is in terms of understanding policy and how that policy impacts not only our local governments but state as well. I think that's what makes me absolutely unique in this, running for this, and that is I'm not sure that anybody has ever done it in this order. Most people, they start started local government and then moved to the state level. I'm obviously doing it differently, and I think that's really going to be an advantage because it's important. I think it's really important to know and to appreciate the relationship that we must have with the state. And unfortunately, this last administration has not built that relationship. In fact, they've caused problems in that relationship. And I think that having been there for 8 years, knowing how the system works as well as anybody can know how it works, developing relationships, I really see that that's going to be a plus in terms of rebuilding the kind of relationships that have been, I think, to some degree damaged. So it's, I think that'll be a benefit. Also, understanding the relationship between policy and kind of the operational sense of running a county is going to be very important. So that certainly makes me unique. I don't think everybody's ever done it, but I think it would be an advantage.
Thank you.
Yeah.
There is a perception that much of county business happens out of the public's view. Do you agree? If not, why? And if so, what positive steps will you take to improve transparency?
I'm not real familiar with that piece particularly because I've not focused a lot on the kind of the day-to-day operations of the county. However, that being said, I think whenever it's possible, it needs to be transparent. Obviously, there's some issues, whether they're legal issues or they're personnel issues or so forth, that those are not issues that I think can be particularly transparent. But if you really believe in the process, if you really believe that the department heads and the people that run county government and the citizens really have a part to play in government, then I don't think it's going to be an issue about transparency because you are actually opening that door. You are welcoming people in. And I think this gets back to leadership style. I want people to imagine someone who leads with the belief that everyone is in, and that no one is left out, and that you make no exceptions. Well, if that's your core, if that's how you believe you should govern, then I don't think transparency will become an issue at all, because you actually would, we really look, it's a way of how you look at government. I look at government as reaching out to people, opening that door, welcoming people into the process, and when you do that, then of course it's very transparent.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
We have 2 questions that are specific to Commissioner President
Mm-hmm.
position.
Mm-hmm.
As Commissioner President, what kind of role do you see yourself taking,
Mm-hmm.
and what is your leadership management style?
Okay. We've kind of touched a little bit on those things,
Yes.
but the first one, the role, obviously, I think that when you are in this position, and as I mentioned to you, there are a couple things. Number one, I mentioned it before, my role is to help the other 4 commissioners be good commissioners. support them, and in any way I can to help them do a good job. And why? Because that benefits all of our constituents. We all have the same constituency, so we should all be working together. I think the other thing is to build trust within the county government. And so one of the things that I certainly would do would be to meet with all of department heads and employees and find out from them what is good about county government, what's working for them, and what's not. The folks that come every day to make this county work are good people, and they want to do a good job. But they need to be coming to a county government and to a building where they feel safe, where they know they're valued, and where they know that what they do really matters. And so it's my job to rebuild that, to let them know that in fact that is part of my role, is to do that. And then obviously work with all of the different groups throughout the county so that everybody's included, whether we're talking about the chamber, whether we're talking about the education community, whether we're talking, and when I say chamber, I'm talking about the business community, whether we're talking about the education, whether we're talking about the social services, all of those, and health department, those all need to come into the fold. They all play a vital role in the county. So it's how do you bring them in? How do you find it? And then how do you help them get the resources to do their job? It's not my job to do their job. It's my job to find out, to help them define what's working, what's not working, and how to get them the resources to do what they need to do.
Thank you. Will you work to restore the duties stripped of Commissioner President in Resolution 2012-18?
I'll be very honest with you. I know that happened. I don't know what those are. I don't know how much that's restricted the operation of county business. So obviously, if I got in, we would take a look at that. Again, it's a trust issue. You've got to build trust within your board, and we've all got to have the same mission, the same goal. And if the same goal, the same mission is to be good public servants for the constituents of Charles County so that everybody enjoys a good quality of life, or we're always striving for everybody to have a good quality of life, I don't think that will become an issue, because it shouldn't be about that particular role. It should be about all of us working together. And so I would certainly take a look at it. I don't know exactly what that did, but that doesn't burden me.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
Now it's time for our wild card
Okay,
question.
sure.
And if you want to draw
Sure.
the question out, and I'll read that to you. The question is, what tools can be provided to the commissioners to help them better perform their duties at the government building and around the county?
Not knowing the particulars about the operation of how it works, but I think one of the very first things you do is you let them tell you, number one, what they hope to accomplish in their term. Because if it matters to them, then there's going to be more of a commitment to that. So I think the first thing to sit down is to sit down and really determine what does each individual want to accomplish. Once you determine that, then again, I think it's a matter of the role of I believe that the president is to take a look at that and say, then how do you help them become successful? What are the resources that they need? How do you help try and give them the resources to be that successful? I think the other thing to do that I think works very well for the county is that you really start to divide the county up in a way that you sit down together and you know that you can't go to every event, but that individuals are able to go out, but then they have to report back, so that the events that I go to, that maybe some others can't go to, that I communicate that with them, and I let them know what happened, and I let them know what the issues are. And then we would all do that together, and we would do that on a regular basis. I think we need to get to the point where the new Board of County Commissioners meets on a regular basis with the mayors of our two municipalities, La Plata and Indian Head, so that we're working together on those whatever issues. I mean, even though they have their own governance and their own way of doing business, they still are part of the county. And those county residents travel on the same roads, go to the same schools, need the same hospital, all those things that every other constituent does. And so we need to be, I think, working closer with them as well.
Thank you very much. We really appreciate you giving us
Sure.
your time.
You're welcome.
Good luck in
Thank-
the election.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Sure, sure.